Yeah. Just a question on parliamentary issues and procedures, because most of us don't know about these things. We saw a video of a Mr. What was his name again? Matt Hancock, I think, saying he would offer his services to outside interests for, I think it was £10,000 a day. Is that allowed?
He wasn't shy, was he? He knows his worth, that man. £10,000 a day. It's not, for backbenchers, it's not against the rules to have other jobs. I mean, if there's any defence of that, clearly, if you couldn't have another job, you could never take a ministerial job because you haven't got time. But being a backbencher, there's as much work as you want. I mean, right. And also what you have to bear in mind is that MPs who don't get casework, i.e. people don't come to them with problems, in my experience, that isn't because there are no problems in your constituency. It's because your constituents have written you off as useless. Yeah. So in fact, the harder you work as a backbencher and the more you sort out people's problems for them, for your constituents, the more they tell people and the more people come. Yeah. I mean, I sometimes think, John, that some people think that MP stands for miracle performer. And there are a lot of people out there looking for a miracle if you can try and provide one.
But I mean, the Member of Parliament in the United Kingdom is such a precious entity to me, to democracy. Because if my MP writes a letter on my behalf, if he takes the time to take an interest in me as an individual, that can actually change things. And if you're too busy earning £10,000 a day, you're going to have no time for the hoi polloi, the riffraff, the plodditariat, like me. And well, as you can tell, that engenders strong feelings.
Yeah, but ultimately you get the MPs, the representatives you vote for. There are no qualifications at all to be a Member of Parliament. You don't have to have any qualifications. The only one you need is you have to get the most votes at the election. And they do say that the public get the politicians they deserve. Well, some of them must have been very bad in a previous life, I think. The sign of Parliament is a portcullis, that is the last protection of the castle when the drawbridge has been breached. And I think we also need to bear that in mind, because I think some of the things that have gone on over the last few years, we certainly have not protected the public how our Parliament was set up to do. But then neither have all the institutions and agencies that were tasked with doing that. There's some very, very bad decisions. When you come back to corporate influences, I mean, it's very difficult if our Parliament is not serving the interests of the public. And we look around, it's not just our Parliament. I mean, some very strange decisions on policy are being made in democracies all over the world on the same issues at the same time. And, they didn't all have Matt Hancock mishandling the COVID response at the same time. It was all done independent. It's very difficult not to see a coordinated pattern of behaviour, which then leads you to believe, what could it be? And global corporate interests would appear the logical answer.
It's true. I hadn't thought about that. You've got similar movements in New Zealand, Canada, the United Kingdom, parts of the United States, quite a few European countries, all happening at the same time, moving in a similar direction. It does seem one heck of a coincidence, doesn't it?
And Australia and New Zealand as well, you see. Yeah. So it's a worldwide phenomenon of people making, probably, which will turn out to be, if they're analysed properly, the wrong decisions about the same issue at the same time. John, you could become a conspiracy theorist if you're only believing in things like that. Coincidences like that.
Let's hope not, Andrew.
Let's hope not. Well, I was thinking I might have to get some new conspiracy theories, because all the ones I had before have all been proved right now.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Andrew, I want to play now. We know, and real commiserations for this, the party that you've worked for and given your blood for over decades has rejected you. And I want to just play a clip here from our mutual friend, the esteemed emeritus professor now, Norman Fenton, and just get your reaction to it, if you don't mind. Is that okay? It's only lasts for about a minute.
I want to say a few words about the furore yesterday over MP Andrew Bridgen's suspension from the Conservative Party for supposedly anti-Semitic remarks. Now, I'm Jewish, and my father was a Holocaust survivor from Poland. In fact, he was the only survivor from his entire extended family. I didn't find Mr. Bridgen's remarks at all anti-Semitic. Mr. Bridgen has been one of the few MPs to have raised the concerns about the serious adverse reactions from the COVID vaccines. And I'm worried that these claims of anti-Semitism are being used to divert attention away from these serious concerns that he's raised.
Yes, and it was absolutely, I mean, it's humbling to see Professor Norman Fenton come out to defend me at considerable risk to himself from the narrative and the mainstream media. I mean, I think he's absolutely right. He also was one of 25 signatories of leading Jewish scientists and doctors who wrote to Number 10, and the point they made was that they believed that the government were falsely accusing me of anti-Semitism and racism, and that by doing that they diminish clearly real incidences of this, and also that they considered the actions of the government were to suppress free speech in the House of Commons, and clearly with their religion and its history, they were deeply concerned that that was the first sign of a totalitarian regime, which is to stop free speech. And I think when you see people like Matt Hancock and Lord Bethell, who served in the health department during the pandemic, now pushing to get vaccine disinformation, misinformation included in the online harms bill, this is just another layer of censorship.
Yeah.
And as I've said in the chamber, and as you've said to your subscribers many times, I mean, science is like politics. It doesn't work without debate and discourse and disagreement. And then if you can't defend your thesis or your political ideals, then they're on probably pretty shaky foundations. And no science is ever settled. The politics is never settled either. And neither should it be. It should always be up for debate. And cancel culture is not the future of science, and it's not the future of free speech, and it's not the future of fair and open democratic politics either.
Couldn't agree more. And just to clarify the anti-Semitism red herring, basically, I read in a mainstream media outlet, BBC, last few days ago from their website, the Conservative Party has expelled MP Andrew Bridgen after he compared, that's from the BBC, 3 days ago, I'll put the reference in, COVID-19 vaccines to the Holocaust. That was on the 26th of April 2023. You know, this concerns me on, and you didn't do that, of course.
No, I was actually retweeting a world famous cardiologist with a paper supporting his arguments from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And his comments were that the vaccine rollout was the biggest crime against humanity since the Holocaust, neither denying the Holocaust or saying that this was worse than the Holocaust or diminishing the Holocaust. In fact, saying that the Holocaust was the biggest crime against humanity that I can ever think of.
Concerning on two levels. First of all, the using Matt Hancock, I believe he said your suggestion was disgusting in Parliament.
Disgusting, anti-Semitic, racist. I'm anti-scientific and a conspiracy theorist.
Let's clear that up. Are you anti-Semitic?
Absolutely not. And I've got ethnic minorities as members of staff, and being called a racist. I mean, that is so deeply upsetting for me.
It is. Yeah.
It really upsets some of my staff deeply. But it is the dog whistle for shutting someone down is to call them a racist and an anti-Semite.
I'm called a racist, a misogynist, and various other ists and phobes and all sorts. And again, I completely refute that. But this is concerning on two levels, as you've already said, Andrew. Firstly, they're using this to sidestep the real issue, which is your scientific case. And secondly, it just diminishes anti-Semitism, which is real. Members of our Jewish community do experience anti-Semitism, and that is a real issue.
Absolutely.
And to diminish this, I just find it appalling. But there we go. I think we've cleared that one up. I mean, it's so in my view, your interventions have saved lives, and you've lost your party membership. Has it been worth it?
I knew that by intervening with regard to the vaccination of small children, I thought I knew that there'd be a huge backlash from the government, and they wouldn't like me going against the narrative. But I knew that science was on my side. I knew I could get the people on my side, and I knew that it wouldn't be in vain. That we could change the policy and protect those young children from a potentially dangerous and experimental vaccine, which they didn't need and was going to be no benefit to them. The only winner was going to be Big Pharma, who'd make even more money out of pushing those vaccines onto small children. And there's got to be a line in the sand somewhere, and it's all right towing the party line and being a loyal party member, but there are some things, and I think the protection of young children's health, if the line's not there, it's nowhere. And what am I in Parliament for? I've actually got a 4-year-old myself, and whenever I look at Blake, I just think, well, there's no way that he's going to be used as a guinea pig for Big Pharma.
Really brings it home, doesn't it? And I know that myself and I could speak for probably all of my viewers, or the vast majority, respect someone who pays a personal price for protecting the weak. So I'd just like to thank you for that on their behalf. The future, Andrew. The government signed a deal with Moderna to produce 250 million doses of messenger ribonucleic acid vaccines a year at a big plant near Oxford. Good idea?
Well, it's a very experimental, novel treatments which have never been properly tested. I think if we actually analyse the vaccine harms, as I've pointed out, we should never have approved those novel vaccines to start with. They're not really vaccines; they're gene therapies. The definition of vaccine had to be changed. No, not at all. And I'm deeply worried about it. The government basically seemed to have said that the only treatment for future pandemics is mRNA vaccines, which can be produced very quickly, which means no safety testing. But also, I fear that all the traditionally safe childhood vaccines that we've known are now going to be converted to mRNA with the consequent risk factors. We know there are risks with every vaccine, but they're fairly minimal for the traditional vaccines, which would be a dead or inert part of or a whole virus, not an antigen coded for by messenger RNA.
So why on earth would you chuck out something that works? We know traditional vaccines.
Tells you they know what the 10-year prognosis is for those of us who've been vaccinated. They don't, do they? Because we haven't had that time where we've had these. What we do know is from our own yellow card system that there's been more yellow card reports of suspected side effects from the novel mRNA vaccines and the AstraZeneca DNA vaccine with the adenovirus vector in 2 or 3 years than we've had for 40 odd years of all the combined traditional vaccines put together. I mean, I'm also very concerned that the yellow card system is not going to be publicised anymore. I'll let you into something, John. We found